Now we're going to take a look at two-dimensional arrays and creating them and using them in code. Here we have the example that we did in another video where we had a single dimensional array and we collected the number of hours worked for a week. So we're going to modify this guy a little bit to make it maybe a little more useful. So instead of having a one-dimensional array with just a number of days, we want to add in let's say a number of employees. So let's add another dimension to this and make the employees the row. Add another constant here. Alright, number of employees. I don't like this lowercase, so we're going to change this to an uppercase because that's the way the constants really should be. Days, and let's add another one for number of employees. And we'll just currently set it to something small at 3. Alright, so that will create for us, and you see I had to correct the days in a couple of spots. There, and there. Alright. Hours is now illegal because it's a two-dimensional array. Let's not work with any functions yet. Let's get rid of that. And bring back in this code for right now, which we'll have to modify. Oops, wrong way. There we go. So two-dimensional array, it's going to have 3 rows and 7 columns, one for each day of the week. Alright, so now to get input we need to change hours so that it has 2 dimensions going. Well, to do that we need 2 indexes, which means we need really 2 loops to control this. Alright, so I'm going to change this index to the num employees so we can see better what we're doing here. Alright. Alright, and of course this got changed. It's going to change a little bit more in a minute, but we need to get rid of index everywhere. Alright, so this is going to prompt the user for those inputs. Alright, so it still needs a second dimension. So this is going to control the which employee we're on. Alright, so you got to picture this as a table with currently 3 rows going down, spreadsheet type thing, and 7 columns going across. So right now the 7 is only handling, we actually don't want that to be 7, we want that to be the employee, number of employees, to control which row we're currently on. We're going to add a second for loop now, and this second for loop is going to control the column, or in this case the day of the week. And so we'll call this one num day. Alright, I'm going to start that at 0, and as long as num day is less than days, and we want to increment num days by 1. Alright, put our curly brackets in for that because we need both of these statements in there. And too many curly brackets. Alright, editor trying to do too much for me. Let's get that formatted correctly. There we go. So the outer loop again is controlling the row we're going to be on and the employees. Right? Picture that table. The inner is going to tell us which column. So the column is going to change several times before the row changes, which is exactly what we want. We want 0, 0, then 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, and so forth, all the way up to 7. And then once we get through the 7 on the inner loop, we move the outer loop by 1, and we're in row 1, and we get the 7 days of information for that one. Alright, so let's see, number of hours worked on. This is outputting the day of the week, so that is controlled by the column number, which is num days. So we gotta change this to num days. Alright, that's telling us which column we're currently in. Not num days, but num day. Alright, and we're going to input it into the num employees and the num day, which day of the week are we in. So we're going to move across each row, column by column, getting input to it. Alright, and then we're going to do this output down here. Again, going to need another for loop. So when you're working with two-dimensional arrays, these 2 loops are it's very common to be using these 2 loops in together. Alright, so it's still hours. And we'll leave that when I didn't. Well, let's make it clear again. Let's do num. Basically do the same thing again here, just for simplicity, so you can see it being used multiple times and being repetitive. Everything looks good there, except for this now needs to be num employees, and we need to add in the other dimension, which is the num days. So now this will output all the locations, keep doing days, just day, in the array. So we'll go through 2 for loops getting all the inputs, and then we'll do 2 for loops to display all the outputs. Alright, and before we do that, I want to, I want it to display the data kind of as a table. So I don't want to call it display value will still work, passing it one piece of data. After each one, let's see what I want to do. Not the greatest way to do this, but it's a quick and easy way to do it. I'm going to output a tab in between each one, and then once the row is done on the outputs, we'll output a new line character. I think I got this correct. We'll see when we run it. Alright, so let's compile that now. So we should again be looping through getting data, populating this 2-dimensional array, which would be, got to picture it as a table. Alright, so there it goes. It's starting on the row 1. I should have outputted what employee we're currently on, but you can see Sunday's there. It's going to, after 7 days, it'll repeat with Sunday again. So I'm just going to go 1 through 7 here. Alright, and now we'll start at 7. So we're on the second row now. I'll count down backwards now. Alright, and we'll start now third column. I'll do even numbers. I do 6, yep, and 10, 12, 14, and it's all done. And my output's not exactly what I wanted. Alright, so I got the one with the tab. Came back through. I got a new line up here which I didn't notice. Okay, but you can see there's the 1 through 7, then the 7 through the 1, and then the even numbers as we enter them. Let me just correct that so you kind of see it as a table. This is what threw us off there. Alright, let's try it one more time here so you can see that it does form a table on both the input and the output. Alright, there's 1 week, and we'll do it backwards. That's week 2, and the even numbers again. There we go, better as a table there. So the 3 rows and the 7 columns of data for each of the rows. Alright, so there we created one using the constants right up here to create it. And we have the 2 for loops, which are going to use a lot with the 2-dimensional arrays to access all the individual places of the data. So the inner loop in this case is doing the columns, where the outer loop is controlling the row we're currently on. If you wanted to do things that you want to go down the column first, you would flip these 2 for loops around. Right? So you have that the outer loop is the columns and the inner loop is the row. So let's say you want to go down and add up everything that's in the column, you would flip these 2 for loops around so it stays on the column as it goes through all the rows. Right? But the basic pattern of these 2 for loops is what you're going to be using to do a lot of the work that you're going to do with 2-dimensional arrays. Alright, so in the next video we'll initialize this array to some data to begin with, and then show you how to start using it with functions.